What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how not to get ghosted, how to actually get to the interview stage. If you're someone who doesn't know what ghosting is essentially when you don't get a response, or you apply and you never hear back, or maybe you interview and you never hear back. You're being ghosted, right? It is a common expression we use nowadays. So I want to give you a former recruiter's perspective on why ghosting occurs and really what you can do about it. Okay, we're going to talk all about that in this video. Now, if you enjoyed this kind of content, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you are interested in getting some more step-by-step instructions on how to help out with your job search, check that out in the description. Let's get started right away. Now, I want to share with you, why do recruiters and hiring managers, why do they ghost so many candidates? And I want you to understand this from a macro perspective, okay? Suppose there's a job posting that goes live and 300 people apply. Out of those 300 people, maybe 10 of them will get a phone interview. Out of those phone interviews, maybe 5 of them will be shortlisted. Out of those 5, maybe 3 of them, depending on how many of them fit the criteria, will go to the first interview, and then even shorter, and then eventually one person will get the job, depending on how many people they were hiring. So if you think about it, recruiters don't want to spend the majority of their time communicating with candidates who are not a good fit. So instead of talking to, say, 290 unqualified people, giving them feedback on why they didn't get selected, giving them feedback on their resume, their cover letter, or what it was about their application that wasn't a good fit, that's going to take way too much time, and there's no return on that, right? If you think about it from a recruiter's point of view, a lot of them are getting paid to hire someone. Maybe they get a commission based on the person they hired. They don't really have any personal incentive to help out people or to give people feedback if they're not moving forward to the next stage. Now, not everyone gets a commission. Some people are paid by the hour, but even then, they want to focus on the candidates that they can actually hire. Now, I want you to understand this. Recruiters work for the company. Recruiters work for the company. Their job is not to find you a job. You're not paying them a nickel. The company is paying them. So make sure you have that right. Their allegiance is to the company. So when a lot of people say, well, it's a recruiter's job to find me a job, not really. No, a recruiter's job is to find the employees, and the best way to do that is to focus on the people who are qualified, okay? So that's the first step. That's why 290 people who apply out of 300, just as an example, they get quote-unquote ghosted, or they don't get a response. When they do get a response, it's usually, hey, thank you so much for applying, but we move forward with other candidates. And usually this is an automated message, okay? So suppose they have decided to hire someone, they're going to press a button on the ATS. It'll select all of the people who weren't selected. They'll press another button, and then it'll send them all the same email. Hey, thank you so much for your application. You were an amazing candidate. You came so close, but unfortunately, we decided to go with another candidate. So I would take a lot of these rejection emails, take them with a grain of salt. It's not always about, were you not the most experienced one, but maybe it was just the wrong timing. Maybe they had someone internally they were considering. So don't take these automated rejection emails so close to your heart, okay? So that's one thing. Now, suppose that you did get an interview and then you're not getting calls back. Maybe you got an interview from a recruiter, you had a phone interview, maybe you even had an in-person interview, and you're not getting a call back. It's been a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What's going on? Now, the same logic applies. The recruiter and the hiring managers, they want to focus on the people they're actually moving forward with, not so much the ones they're not. Now, here's the thing. And this might not be the best thing for you to hear, but if you think about it from a hiring manager and a recruiter's perspective, they want to have as many options on the table as possible. So for example, if they call 10 people for a phone interview, out of those 10 people, they'll probably have 3 to 5 that are their preference, that fit the best, right? But they've interviewed 10 people. But they might not want to say no to you just yet. Okay, why is that? Because when they shortlist, say out of 10 people, they've shortlisted 5. Out of those 5 people, they'll move maybe 3 forward to the hiring manager. Unless they've made a decision, oh yeah, this person for a fact is not going to be a good fit, let them know, you can turn them off. Unless they've made that decision, they're not going to reject you up until the end of the process. So a lot of times you might see that you apply for a job and you interview and you don't hear back from like a month or a month and a half, and then you get a rejection. This is usually because the hiring managers haven't made up their mind about who they want to move forward with. They might have a preference of who else they want, but in case that doesn't work out, they want to have other options on the table. So if they've interviewed you and they haven't given you a response for like 3 weeks or up to a month, most likely the chances are they are interviewing other candidates for the role. They're interested in other candidates. They just want to make sure they work out before they turn you off. The last thing they want is their top candidate doesn't fit and then they don't have any other candidates. So then they can always go back to you and say, hey, yeah, sorry it took so long, but anyway, we're really excited about your position. Let's get this show on the road. Now, I agree this is not the best practice. I think you should keep candidates updated. I think you should let them know. You shouldn't keep them waiting. But unfortunately, if you look at the industry, this is an unfortunate, it's a trend. Companies, they want to have as many options as possible. So that's why they hesitate on giving this information. And understand that the recruiter can only do so much as well. If the hiring manager has said, listen, I want to interview these 3 people first and I want to see if they fit before interviewing anywhere else, make sure you're not turning anyone else off. The recruiter cannot tell you, hey, yeah, you know what, they're interviewing someone else right now, they'll put you on hold. They're not going to say that. And they can't tell you that you've been turned off. They can't tell you that you're not the top candidate unless the hiring managers tell them to, right? Or whoever the authority is. So these are some of the reasons that you might be getting ghosted, okay? Depending on where you are in the process, there might be some other reasons as well. Now, one thing to note is you can only control so much in the hiring process. You shouldn't be concerned so much about I'm getting ghosted, I'm getting no response, blah blah blah. If you keep yourself in that mentality, it's not really going to help you out. So the only question you can ask yourself is, in this situation where the ball is in someone else's court, what can I be doing? What's something I have control over that I can influence the decision on, okay? Now, number one, I can say, if you are someone who's just applied to a role and you haven't heard back, the first thing you can do is follow up with your application. I can tell you, with my own recruitment experience, a very, very small percentage of people will actually follow up. And the reason for that is they might have applied to 100 different jobs and they don't even remember which jobs they applied to. So if you're someone who's applied, make sure you either find the recruiter, you find the hiring manager, you send them an email, and at the very least, you let them know, I've applied to the job. I wanted to check my candidacy. I wanted to make sure that you have found my resume. I'm just wondering what the timeline for hire is. How soon are you looking to hire? Have you had the chance to review my resume? Now, such few people do this. I would say under 5% would actually follow up, depending on the role, depending on the company. So the fact that you're following up, your name shows up in their inbox, right? A lot of companies will have a policy where you have to respond to candidates within 24 hours or 48 hours, depending on their service. So if you email them saying, hey, I saw your job, this is my name, this is my application, I just wanted to get an idea, the very least they can do, if a recruiter checks their email, and I'm sure they do, the very least they can do is get your name, put it into the ATS, open up your resume, see if you're a good fit or not. Now, don't expect a reply. You'll probably get a very small percentage in terms of a reply. But if you actually are a good fit, you've emailed them at a good time, you've gotten their attention, they like what they see on your resume, you might have gotten their attention because you followed up. Okay, you'll prevent yourself from being ghosted simply because you followed up. So that's one of the easiest thing you can do. The other thing is, if you've been interviewing with a process, a lot of times you will have a personal contact with the recruiter. You might have their phone number. You might even have the hiring manager's phone number, depending on what the process looked like. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask them. I know a lot of people who will interview and they'll just have no correspondence with the hiring managers or the recruiters about their position. They'll just kind of let it slide. And they think, oh, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to infringe. I don't want to take up their time. But really, if you're interested in the role, you have to demonstrate that, hey, I'm still really interested. I just wanted to know if you made a decision. I wanted to know where I'm in the hiring process. Is there anything I can do to demonstrate my fit? You should be following up on your application, okay? Demonstrate enthusiasm, show what you can. Again, some recruiters will respond to you, some recruiters won't respond to you. Some of my clients have had this happen to them where the interview went really well. They emailed the recruiter 4 or 5 times, and we have an email tracker that we use in our clientele that shows whether they opened the email, and the recruiter opened the email several times but just never responded. So it is unfortunate how you have these practices in the industry. I would get used to it because you can't really change how recruiters and hiring managers behave. The only thing you can do is change your perception and change your mentality. Now, what have you learned through this process? Being ghosted, that's not something you can control. The only thing you can control is the follow-up process, okay? If you've interviewed, follow up with your recruiter. If you have applied, follow up with a job posting, follow up with a recruiter, follow up with a hiring manager. If you'd like to know how to do that, I've got a whole tutorial on networking that you can find on my YouTube channel, as well as a 15-minute breakdown where you can see how to find hiring managers and whatnot. Gives you step-by-step instructions. But really, you want to focus on the things, guys, you can actually control, and then of course, when you're applying to online job postings, you want to make sure your resume is a good fit. I would say at least 70% it's a good fit. If you want tips on how to make a good resume, some top 10 tips, including a resume template to use, you can check that out in the description as well. And hopefully doing all these things, they will reduce the odds of you getting ghosted, but still realize percentage-wise, if there are 300 people applying to every single role, just the chances of you not getting a response are very, very high, which is why I'm such a proponent of networking to find a job. Again, you can find that tutorial in the description. Guys, I hope this helped out. I hope this gave you some perspective. If you would like some more help, if you would like step-by-step instructions that my clients have used to get more job interviews, check that out in the description if you're interested in working with me. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.